Hello and welcome to Mystic Visions. This is a daily pick a card reading for January the 3rd of 2021. So the purpose of this reading is to give you a brief piece of advice or to help guide your overall focus for the day. If you are looking for a longer, more detailed reading, please check out my channel for the monthly readings. And if you are new to pick a card readings, the way this works is that you'll choose one of the three piles here and then click on the timestamp in the description to skip ahead to that reading. Now, if you feel compelled to choose more than one card, that's totally fine. Please follow your intuition here. There's likely to be some good advice in each reading, even if one pile is more accurate than the others. So I have also added 3 crystals to aid in your selection. Today I have amethyst here. This is selenite, and this is chalcopyrite, or I like to call it chalcopyrite. So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds of silence so that you can meditate on your choice if you wish. And once you have your choices in mind, go ahead and find the timestamp in the description and skip ahead. So let's go ahead and start the 30 seconds. Okay, so if you have not already done so, please go ahead and make your selection and scroll down to the description to find the timestamp to skip ahead to your particular reading. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with card number 1. If you chose the amethyst, this will be the reading for you. Okay. All right, so for your situation here, this Wheel of Fortune in the reverse suggests maybe that you're feeling... I kind of like how in this one there's some rats going around this wheel here, because it kind of reminds you of the rat race sometimes, or just like the natural cycle of things. So whereas on one end of the spectrum there sort of seems like a purpose to everything, when this shows up in the negative, you may be feeling like there's a little bit of chaos going on, or that things are just kind of bad luck is what you can feel here. But there's also an opportunity for you to recognize that things do have a purpose. It may seem sort of random. It may seem that things have not worked in your favor, but there is a sort of purpose here. So that's an opportunity whenever this thing is feeling sort of heavy on you. Just keep faith that there is some sort of reason and look for it. Look internally too, instead of trying to find some external reason why things are supposed to be this way or why they should make sense. Look internally and ask yourself, what is this? Is there something that the universe is sort of trying to teach you? It could be yelling pretty loudly at you, trying to get your attention, and so that's definitely a good way to learn. Now, in another sort of way, this could be just as simple as like resisting this natural change of cycles or seasons. So a lot of people get very, very hung up on like politics, for example, and they may feel as though there's this optimism that your side could just like win every single time. And if you look back historically, it doesn't tend to work that way. It kind of goes back and forth in a pretty regular pattern. And the reason for that is because one party takes power and then they have a field day. And the more they do things, the more the other side gets enraged and gets more politically active. So there's always this sort of back and forth tug of war, this natural cycle, this rhythm to the world. It's one of the principles of Hermetic philosophy, that rhythm is present in all systems and everything goes in and out. So you may be feeling a little bit of a resistance to that in one way or another, not wanting things to keep changing, not wanting for there to be another season upon you. but resisting it really only makes it more difficult to endure. And so that may be the lesson for you right now. What you have challenging you is this Five of Swords. So this usually represents a sort of argument or something that you may have gotten a little heated in, may have said a couple things that you don't really mean, and had some negative fallout with some people possibly that you care about. So the energy here is always like, was it really worth it? Was it worth all this argument and driving this wedge between you? And sometimes it may be. The answer to that may be yes. But there's definitely a call for you to sort of assess the situation and ask yourself, could that have been handled better? And what was the reason you got involved in that sort of argument in the first place? Were you just trying to prove yourself right, or were you actually doing it because you cared about the person? And if you really cared about the person, then you may have gone a little too far in the argument because you may have alienated somebody that you care about. And then, on the other hand, if it was more important that you just be right, well, then, maybe look and see, is there a little bit of a overactive ego here or something where you're needing to feel like you're the good guy or the one in charge, or, just trying to get your will done over others. So ask yourself, as the result of this sort of argument that's happened, what's important to you in these situations. And then what you have for your advice is the card right after the Five of Swords. So obviously asking you to carry on here in this journey. But the Six of Swords represents this kind of painful transition. A lot of times there is a need for you to change the way that things are, to change your location, to change your attitude about things. This painful transition, and it's a necessary transition. It's not something that you can really avoid, but it's not something that you're going to be looking forward to either. And it is it's something that will inevitably work out for the better. So it's like if if you can't pay your rent, or like let's say you're a college student, you've gone off to live on your own, and once you've graduated college, you just have a tough time paying for your rent, and you end up getting evicted. Well, it's probably, you probably need to go home for a little while if you can, if you have that, and save up some money. And it's going to suck. It's going to be a hard transition, particularly after all that freedom that you had at one point. But it's for the best because it allows you to save up money, and it's a better idea. Now that's just one example, but this in general talks about just painful transitions. And in the advice card here, it's advising you to move on. It's advising you to figure out what needs to change, even though you may be seeking comfort in a lot of your habits and a lot of your routines. So this is asking you to maybe not look so much about what's making you feel comfortable, but look at what's best for you and your overall direction. Okay, so that's about it for card number 1. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to card number 2. Sorry, if you chose the Selenite. Okay, you have the Nine of Swords. A lot of swords coming up here today. A lot of people thinking. And the Knight of Wands, and then the Ace of Cups. All right, so Nine of Swords here can be very nervous, anxious energy. This can be a lot of times, it's not just fear, right? Fear is something that has like a definite source, or like, you're afraid that something specific is going to happen, or something like that, right? But anxiety is sort of like more like worry. This is something that builds up in your mind, and sometimes there's no obvious trigger for it. Sometimes if you're really bad off, you're just worrying about being worried, and this nervous feeling, and it can be very tangible, comes upon you. And so this could be just anything that has caused you to become a little untrusting of the environment around you. Notice here that in the background there are swords, there's money, there are cups, there is kind of all of the different elements. So these thoughts, or an overabundance of thoughts about any particular aspect of your life, can provoke worry. You can go to every lengths possible to become the most wealthy person in the world so that you can prevent anything you can imagine from happening to you, any bad thing from happening. But then your health might give out, and how there's no end to the number of things that could happen to your health, right? So worry is something that is like a black hole. You can go down it as much as you want, and you really start getting into trouble once you've convinced yourself that that worry is helping you, or is in a way making you more prepared, because it's like there's just no end to the amount of things that you could worry about. So at some point it's a matter of putting the thoughts down a little bit, not thinking. And I mean, to some people that just sounds appalling to not think, but I love quotes in my reading. So here's one. A man who thinks all the time has nothing to think about except thoughts. So you've got to get back in touch with reality a little bit, and instead of just being plagued by your thoughts and those kind of things. Now, the challenging energy for you here is this Knight of Wands in the reverse. So the Knight of Wands is usually very active. He jumps in, he gets things done. He can be a little too quick to do things. He's not as necessarily careful, but it doesn't mean that he's like, clumsy necessarily. He generally has a bit of skill, but he doesn't really think about the implications of his actions as much. So sometimes he can end up kind of doing more harm than good when he jumps in with these actions. Now, as you get into, a more matured queen or king energy, it's a little bit better. But at this stage, there's a little bit more immaturity here. Now, this is in the reverse. So, instead of you being tempted to just jump in really fast and whatnot, you may be like really hesitant. You may be feeling like, I don't want to do something that's going to be a mistake. And you may be kind of like just pulling your punches all the time. And it may be difficult for you to really get anything done. And this could be really driving that source of anxiety, because a lot of times, the anxiety surfaces just naturally as the result of this lack of action, because you feel like you should be doing more than you're doing. And so if you're feeling a little too complacent, or you look at yourself and you say, oh, I haven't done anything about this, then you can, that anxiety can kind of surface. So one possible cure for anxiety in this situation is to just put some kind of effort into making it better. And that's not planning or thought, that's the wrong way to go about this. But if you can actually do something physical to make you feel better, a lot of times it can help. So, I've had anxiety about like I live quite far away from my house. I work quite far away from my house, and so I get somewhat nervous about leaving the house alone. So I've bought some things like, the Nest fire alarms and things like that, so I have instantly on my phone a notification if something bad were to be happening, and then I could call the fire department. So I've taken some action to help alleviate that anxiety, instead of just sitting there worrying about it all the time. Worrying won't do anything, right? That's going to do is stress me out, make me less effective at work, less successful, and probably prolong the amount of years that I have to work and stay away from home, which is ultimately what I don't want to be doing. So don't shoot yourself in the foot with worry. Use your worry, and if you're not going to be able to use your worry effectively, it's best to just meditate and practice letting it go. It's become an excess if it's not productive. So advice here is this Ace of Cups in the reverse. Ace of Cups is generally like a new emotion, something like that, right? But you may be a little bit resistant to this new type of emotion. So there could be this, along with this Knight of Wands, there comes this kind of ferocity, this I'm going to take, life by the balls sort of feeling here. And that may be something that's not, typically an energy that you project or that you feel. So there could be like new types of energies here that are able to help you that you've been a little bit resistant to. And that may not be the specific emotion that you're resistant to, but in one way or another, you're resisting some new type of feeling or new type of emotion. And it may not be that it's completely new to you. You may have felt it at some point in the past and had a bad experience with it, and that's why you're sort of closed off to that whatever that particular emotion is. But it's very possible that there's some aspect or emotion that you have closed out here a little bit that could be very helpful to you. I found a long time ago, if I had just really severe anxiety, one of the things that could help me is to transform some of that into a little bit of like anger. And I'm not a person who generally likes to feel angry. I have a extremely bad temper that I've been working on my entire life, and it's gotten me into some huge trouble. So I've done a lot of work on alleviating that. But what I recognized at one point was that turning my back on anger completely was doing things like allowing me to be taken advantage of and putting me in situations where I wasn't, as in control of the situation as I should be, and letting other people walk all over me and that kind of thing. And that was leading me to some tremendous anxiety because I really wasn't asserting myself. So tapping into these little aspects of life that you may have thought that you could turn your back on can help take you a long way sometimes. So that's about it for card number 2. Pretty good one right there. I needed that one. I don't know if you did, but I did. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to card number 3 if you chose the chalcopyrite. Very pretty stone. One of my favorites. All kinds of colors. Little background on that. That is a mixture of pyrite and copper. And it comes out with this layer of oxidation, which is blue and purple and green. And without that oxidation, it's kind of like a dull copper colored. So for card number 3, you've chosen... Let me make sure. See, it's hard to tell the difference between the queen and the king, but this is the king. So... this is the King of Swords in the reverse, the 9 of Coins, and the Chariot. Okay. All right, so with this King of Swords in the reverse, there could be, this is your situation. There could be somebody around you who's been a little bit arrogant or controlling or manipulative or something like that. They're a smart person, they're intellectual, but they are not necessarily working in your favor. Now this could also represent you. You could be displaying a little bit of this emotion or a manipulative behavior, or simply it could also mean that you just think you know a lot of things that you're not really certain of. So this would be the case if you feel like you have a whole lot of knowledge, but you haven't actually gone out there and experienced these things. You may have learned a lot of things on the internet or in school or places like that, but don't really have that experience to back it up. And, that can cause a little bit of abrasion between you and some other people around. But that's just one possible interpretation here. This could also just be somebody around you who has this sort of energy about them. So, but in one way or another, heavy on your mind right now, in your plane of focus, is this manipulative, kind of overbearing, perhaps arrogant figure. Or, like I said, you may have to look in the mirror to find that person. But anyway, so crossing is this 9 of Coins. And the Nine of Coins is, there's a tremendous amount of success here. There's always this opportunity to take a look around and take it all in. It can cause a little bit of like daydreaminess, or it's kind of like you may spend your whole life, working towards some measure of success, and then once you get it, you just kind of don't know what to do. You are just basking in it, and you become a little bit stagnant. Even though you're happy and things are good, there can be this sort of emptiness that comes out of that, where you realize that like you've got to figure out something in your life that's a little bit more emotionally fulfilling, that the physical abundance in and of itself is not really enough, right? So, and the advice card here is this Chariot, and the Chariot has a similar message there, where there's some definite accomplishment here, and of course this is your advice. So the Chariot is normally pictured traveling out away from his little home city. So he's leaving the house and going out into the world, and there's an accomplishment of, he's dominated that home environment. He's mastered that. He's figured that out. So now the question is, where does he want to go? What does he want to do? I often, I think about, an image pops in my head when I think about this card, where like a young teenager is trying to save up to buy a car, and once he finally gets the car, he realizes, well, he hasn't really put a whole lot of thought into what he was going to do with that car. He just was really fixated on the car itself. So now what are you going to do? Are you going to go get a job? Are you going to go travel somewhere? So there's the question of what's next. Instead of feeling like there's a finality about what you've accomplished, this is asking you to take a look at what do you want to do next, what's going to fulfill you in the long run, and get you some experience and things like that. And who knows where that'll take you. So coming to the end of this and thinking back to that first card a little bit more, there is another possible interpretation I didn't really think about at the time, but this could be that you just haven't put a lot of thought into this, that you may have been kind of operating on autopilot a little bit, and so that there's this need for you to actually put some effort into choosing direction at this point. And it didn't even really click until I got to the end there, but that's another possible interpretation of that King of Swords if the earlier interpretation wasn't really doing it for you. So anyway, that's about it for the third card here. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you guys tomorrow for the next daily reading.